Sie können gerne beginnen.
Gut, dann würde ich sagen, fangen wir an. Ja, hallo, willkommen, welcome. So, we are talking about what we can learn from the world of games. So, obviously, we have bunch of people here working with games, developing games. They will introduce themselves later on. Let me start with an introduction. I just tell you what I do and where I come from. My name is Ralf Stock, and I'm a game designer for a very long time. I started in the 80s with commercial games, consumer games. These were platforms like the C64, these old Commodore computers, very, very old. Most of you won't know them anymore. And I started to create serious games 30 years ago. And so from the beginning, you could say, I tried to combine the knowledge of creating a good game and a game that really works for the computer, for the consumer, with the knowledge you need to create serious games. And this is one of the topics today, to find out what is the difference between a game for a purpose, a so-called serious game, and games created just for fun of the consumer. And this is a very, very interesting and important question we face every day in our work. I have founded Serious Game Solutions. We are based in Berlin and Stuttgart, and of another studio that's called 16 Tons Entertainment, and we are creating games for consumers, mostly for iPad, iPhone, and Android today. So let me tell you some aspects of my work in the serious area. One of our latest products is a game to treat people who are feared of spiders. That means not only that what I also feel that I say, oh, I won't touch a spider, thank you, but people who are really, really scared, who can't leave the house because there could be a spider on the street. So people, doctors tell us they should be treated to live a normal life. Another project, which is one of my most favorite projects we have created, is a game that supports children suffering from cancer. And the main idea of this project is to stabilize children in their social networks, to get them into contact with to keep them in contact with their peer groups. And this is very important to support the treatment of the doctors, especially when children are hospitalized and far away from home. So this is a very fulfilling project we have created. Another important part of our work is reducing lifestyle diseases. Lifestyle diseases, the word itself says it, they are quite common today. We see them with many, many patients, and these are not only grown-up patients, also children suffer from lifestyle diseases today, and I think every one of you read a lot of the causes. And so again, here it is not only to treat people in a classical medical sense, but to look at their social environments, to look how behave what kind of life do they live. And so those games cover all these questions, and this is a very challenging process in design. I mentioned before, we are also creating games for consumers, and here you see an example. This is one of our games you can just download in the App Store. It's free all the games are free today. We can't sell games anymore for €4.99. Nobody will buy them, nobody. So all the games we put into the store are free now. And this is one of the examples. It's a game called Emergency, and you just have to save people, you have to treat them and everything, but it's only fun. But also here, we use it to train professionals. So this is a part of the game, or a special version of the game we use to train firemen. And so you see what I told you before, whenever we design games, we just can't stop thinking about, hey, how could we use this specific game we created for consumers to make money out of it? How can we use it also to get any good out of the game, more than to give the game to the players to have fun, which is also a very challenging and fulfilling aspect of our work. Before I hand over to my colleagues, I would like to give you a short overview about the platform market we face today in Germany, and you can apply that on Europe mostly, because this is a very, very important point to start the development, the thinking, the design of a game. Because I have to know, what do people do with my game? How can they play it? How can they access the game? What do I have to design so they have fun, so they use it, so I get retention? That means they use it again and again and again. And so some basic data, and they are all very, very promising, very good data. First thing is, we have now nearly 50% of the Germans playing at least sometimes. 35% of the Germans play nearly daily. That means half of the German population plays. And again, we can say thank you to Steve Jobs and the smartphone, because smartphones changed that all. 20 years ago, these numbers were insignificant. That means 2, 3, 4% of the population, and they played those computers I mentioned, Commodore 64, whatever. Nobody seriously had, only the children and pupils. And so today, people who are grown up play. This is important. You see that here above. 2016, 35 years average age of a player. 2017, 35.5. Today, 36. So this is increasing. And I think we can expect the 50 years old average player in some years. And this is a very good news. Another thing that is important for the breakthrough of gaming, mass gaming, is the women are playing now. When I was young, no girl was playing. All the pimpled guys like me in school, they played and programmed and everything, and the girls said, no, I don't want to play computer games or program a computer. They went with the sports guys, and so this was reality. Today, the girls are playing, which is good news. 47% of all the players are women now. I read recently in the United States, more than 50% of all players are female. That means the majority of the players in the United States today is female. Interesting. They told me it's because of the smartphones, because women play on smartphones. Free-to-play games on smartphones, and this is what they play, and so they play more than men. Okay, interesting facts. One more. The platform itself, you see it, smartphones rule everything. PC is decreasing, console is stable, but the smartphone takes everything. That means if you want to be successful as a game developer today, you have to develop for smartphones. This does not apply for every game genre, so we have some interesting developments there. But if you want to be successful, you have to have the smartphone in your portfolio. And this is also, all I tell now is also applicable on serious games, not only consumer games. And the last one is the games market is growing in apps. That means we have to take into consideration that people are not willing to pay for an app they find in the App Store for €4.99 or €9.99. Absolutely impossible anymore. Nobody buys it. That means every app has to be for free, and then you buy in-app purchases. That means if you like the app, if you want to get some advantages in playing or whatever, you want to accelerate developments, things like that, small but important things, then you buy in-game currency and you spend that to accelerate your game, to make your game experience more round. And numbers show that here very well. That means we have only €7 million revenues in app purchases. This is the original business model we had 10 years ago, to say, okay, our game on the PC costed €50, €50. Now we go to the App Store, please pay €4.99. And this is what does not work. So this is only 7 million of app purchases from the App Store. Now we say, okay, take everything for free. You get the full support, you get end customer support, everything. But if you want, pay something for in-game currency and spend it. And this now brings €676 million. And this is the main business model now in gaming business. And you can accept it or not, but you have to accept it in the end. So these are really important backgrounds to understand how we develop, think, and design games today. And now I would ask each of you to tell something about yourself, to give a short introduction about yourself, and to give a very small insight in what you are doing and what your opinions on gamification and e-health are. And I have prepared some questions, and then we go into the discussion. So, Julian, if you want to start, I can hand this device over, and so you can do it from here.
Yes. Hi, my name is Juriaan van Rijswijk. I'm founder of the Games Health Europe Foundation, and I'm also founder of the Game Solutions Lab, which is a studio in Eindhoven, the Netherlands, where 50 people, 50, produce awesome games in the health domain. I'm in the business for 23 years now, so I'm younger than you are probably. You were talking about the 80s. I'm only 23 years in the industry. Produced hundreds of games, 100 are active in healthcare, 6 have saved lives, and 2 are classified as a medication. So that's the portfolio. Let's skip this. And we approach the games in health from 3 universal principles. We believe that play is the language. We are born, we are not able to do anything except play. So we are born with the skill to play, and with that we learn everything. We learn our own language, but also we learn, for example, cycling, everything we learn with play. No one in this room has learned how to cycle by reading a book. We have learned cycling by making mistakes, practicing, etc. So that's our first principle, play. and games are instruments for play. So it's a methodology for play, and we see that as a language. The second is our universal principles are what the English say as beautiful word, health conditions. So in English they don't say you're sick, they say people have health conditions. And the funny thing, or the not funny thing of it, but it's for us it's universal. It makes it universal because, for example, Parkinson is everywhere the same. So it's a global health condition that's universal. So if we can approach, in the Netherlands, for example, there are 50,000 people with Parkinson. If we can design a solution for them, globally there are 350 million people with Parkinson. So that makes it universal for us. And the third principle is happiness. We would love to organize the paradigm shift in healthcare. Healthcare reasons, if you're not sick or if you're healthy, you are able to become happy. We say the other way around. We see happiness as a basis for good health and healthy care. That's our principle. And the way we approach healthcare is as a game that is bad designed. So for us, a hospital is a game that is bad designed, therapy is a game that is bad designed, and that's the way we approach it. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you very much. And so my first question that came up when I looked at us here, is game design unattractive for women? Because no woman here.
We have
what
more
what
women.
do you think?
No, we have more women in the office than men.
Very, very good.
Yep.
How is it with you?
Well, we would have to like more women in our offices. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But what not is, can become.
Okay. For you also?
For us, I think it's like 60% of women.
Okay. Cool.
So for us, it's still a men's domain in our office,
Yeah.
but we are trying also to get more women on board.
Yeah, I see here, I'm happy to see in the audience there are quite a number of women, and so that's good news. And I would say my experience is that it's a quite male-dominated thing, game development, unfortunately. But we have some very, very contributing girls and women in our company, especially in the graphics, level design, and also in the game design. So it works and becomes better and better. And I think this is one of the most important things that has to change, that if we want to create games for 50% women and 50% men, so we have to have women in the design process to understand how they think, and this is this was underestimated in the past.
Yeah, in our company, my wife is the boss, so she's the commander in heels. So I'm actually only the spokesman of this company.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So yeah, there are not too many games companies in Germany which are run by women. But also this is increasing. Okay, fine. This is good news. Second question. You made a statement I like very much, and I would like to ask you to explain it. You say gamification is like broccoli with chocolate sauce. It looks nice, but it's horrible to eat. So, can you explain it?
Well, I often see situations where people have something that is totally boring to do. For example, a Fitbit for me is totally boring.
Yeah.
There's no user experience for a Fitbit. So, and then they face that they have a problem because their app or game or technology isn't used. And then they think, oh, let's introduce a game on top of this boring thing to make it more fun. But people don't eat that. If you're not designed from the... So you have to tear it completely down and have to make a proper game out of it. So you can't make something that's intrinsically boring to do, you can't make it attractive with a game. You're abusing the techniques of game to do that. People won't buy it and people don't eat it.
Mm-hmm. So, Thorsten, what do you think? Do you agree?
Yes, fully agree. So I'm not the biggest fan of gamification, to be honest. There's definitely a lot of processes and specific areas where you can have or get great results with gamification. For instance, onboarding processes of new software, getting information to your employees. But when it comes to change of behavior, or if I really want to change something, how people think about their health, or get a deeper understanding of certain health risks, then gamification, in my eyes, is simply not enough. So what we call it is actually healthification. So we put it vice versa, which means in the first place, we try to deliver a great game experience that is by nature intrinsic motivation, because I really want to achieve something in the game. And then subtly actually add certain health potions to that, whatever the specific area might be, so that the user, the player, first is attracted by the game, by a strong game, because this is actually what makes the media game so powerful. And then actually bring in the more or less healthy topic through the back door of the game.
Okay. Has anybody a positive example where he says, yeah, this was convergence of playability and the purpose?
Waze. Waze was created by a company that couldn't afford to buy maps. So they came up with a playful interaction with users to ask, can you, by driving, drawing a map for me? So they entirely gamified the navigation experience. And with that, they created the most accurate map we have in the world.
Okay. Valentin, you?
Yeah, well, I, as an example, I was about to talk about our first product. Maybe I'll talk about it later, but that's really true what we said. I think for us, it's not, we cannot just gamify on top of this. Like, it has to be gamified by design, and so I like healthification. I used to say it's not, in our case, gamification of tests, but testification of games. Like, you start playing a game, and in the patient's mind, it's playing a game, but at the end, the outcome is clinically relevant, and it gives data to the physicians and so on.
Okay. Few, any?
Yeah, if I may add something, so I think you also said already that gamification can maybe only work when it's more little things. So you already did some kind of stepping back a little bit from this general view that you had, that gamification is always this kind of thing that is the chocolate flavored broccoli. I think for more little things that motivate you to do in life, gamification can be a factor. If you go into a change of mindset so that you have a healthier living or something like that, definitely you need to come from the ground up and design this. But we've made the experience that when you have a boring thing to do, that's not about I will change my lifestyle, when it's just really about one boring task that I have to do, that already very little things that are some kind of gamification can help quite a lot. So I wouldn't agree fully on that one.
No, I believe in gamification when it's done properly, so by design. But what I often see, so it's about disconnecting motivation and goal. I believe that if you disconnect motivation, people don't want to eat healthy. They don't want to live healthy. They don't want to sleep. They all want to do crazy stuff. What I often see is that physicians design for purpose, and I think a lot more applications should be designed for the motivation of people. So you should discover people's motivation, and then as a side effect, you can organize the goal that a physician wants to have.
Okay, so thank you. So I think we can go to the next. Martin, so could you introduce you? Can we go to the slides now again? Ah, cool. So you can take this one and you use the green button.
He doesn't have any slides.
I actually don't have any slides, so I don't know what's
Okay,
going on.
so try it.
Oh.
Okay, so there is
Okay.
one.
Well,
There
that-
is one slide.
Well, that's pretty accurate.
I prepared that for you.
Thanks. So I'm Martin. I'm head of sales at TLAC Healthcare. So TLAC Healthcare is a medical gaming company. So we design games to apply for chronic patients in order to give relevant data so the physician can use to deliver an accurate treatment. So our first product is in ophthalmology. So we designed an app, a mobile app that is called Odyssite, and it is monitoring for patients with chronic eye diseases like age-related macular degeneration, so all retina diseases, where you have a strong need for a follow-up because like you need to test basically your eyes and your visual acuity every week, and you're going to have random loss in vision. And when you experience that loss in vision, you need to see an ophthalmologist within the next 10 days. Otherwise, it might be irreversibly a visual loss. So the thing is, there was a lot of apps on the market. A few of them were clinically validated, but the big problem they had was retention. The patient would use it, and then you would have a 15 to 20% retention after 90 days, which we should aim for better in this kind of application. So basically the need was from French doctors based in Paris. The company is also based in Paris. And they had this need to have a possibility to make the tests for patients from home and to give the opportunity for a patient to do it from home. But they didn't do it inside their university hospital. They decided to give it to Gameloft and Ubisoft professionals that are former executives from the mobile games. And so today our company is 25 people. It's 2/3 from the mobile gaming industry, and the last third is for operations and also medical and regulatory. And so our goal today is to, so we're doing a soft launch right now in 15 centers in France, Paris and other places. And what's really interesting is that we start to see patients. We have hundreds of patients, and they have alerts. They generate alerts. The retention rate is extremely good. It's around 65 to 70 so far after 2 months. So our goal is to improve the clinical relevance. So we've been clinically validated very recently, and our moonshot, what I was saying to Ralph before, is that we want the patient not to feel that he's doing a test every day, but that he's in a routine that is a fun routine to have. And we want to extract the patient from his chronic condition. So today we have some testimony from our patients that say, okay, for me now has just become a routine, and actually a fun routine. So I'm doing my tests. It takes 2 to 5 minutes every day, and then this gives me credit to have games, to play the game, and then I'm monitored by my physician, and I know that my physician is going to follow up on me. And if I have a problem, I have a consultation, and then I can have the accurate treatment at the accurate time.
Okay, thank you very much. You mentioned a word quite often that was retention. And retention is, if you translate it to a doctor's language, is what they call perhaps compliance.
It's observance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it is a measurement for how often the patient comes back to the product, to the
Yeah.
game, for
Yeah.
example.
So-
And it's very, very important for all of us creating games, because it obviously tells us if we are successful in creating games. Because if we create a game and the user uses it and comes never back, we have a retention of 0, and that is very, very bad. That means he doesn't like our game, and so our game can not do any good. And so I would ask you, what in your opinion are the 3 key points you have to take into account as a designer if you want to create a high retention for your applicable game, for your serious game?
So I think well, we also don't really like the term serious game, because for us it is a game, and whatever it's serious or not, we don't really care.
Right.
Basically, it's just it is a game, and it has the quality of a game.
Right.
It's from like Gameloft professionals and Ubisoft. So if you play a game on your phone, you will have the same kind of quality in this in our game. So retention is really important. It's called observance, more in the medical field. I think what's important, well, personally, I'm not a designer, but what I can say from the field is that patients, our target is not the 35-year-old. Our target is the 60-year-old and 60-year-plus year-old women. And today, 65% of our players are women, 60% 60-year-old. So in order for them to give them the will to come back every day or every 2 or 3 days, in our case it's 3 days, you need to show them that this app is useful. And I have the example of one of our patients who never played any game before, and she said, but games are not for me, when the physician gave it to her. And then she said, well, then I guess I'm a gamer now, because I just started to play and it was really natural.
Okay.
So,
I have one additional question. It goes in the same direction. You say eHealth 3.0 is a game experience that is clinically relevant and collects relevant data and has a high retention. So what is your recipe to get all these aspects into one product, into one function?
So, yeah, the whole value, I think, of our company today is that we not only build a game, we not only build an eHealth app, but we really try to mix both experiences. So you have a test, then the test gives you credit to play the game. And we have a lot of cross-functional people in the team. We have game designers, we have level artists, we have 3D artists, but we also have clinical project manager, regulatory affairs, and it's a really subtle balance that is sometimes quite challenging to find. But I would say, like, a rough estimate for me is that the experience should be 80% game and 20% clinical. So in our experience, it's you have a module, a medical module that is clearly identified, and you have a game that is also clearly identified. But when you enter in the app, you have a saga map, like in a lot of medical games, not medical games, but just mobile games. You have a saga map, and you know that you're going to do those puzzles. And oh, by the way, you have this test, and this test will give you the credits. So I think it's really important for the companies that want to build like with relevant clinic data and also like a relevant gaming experience. You have to have both,
Okay.
and that's a real challenge for the
Okay.
team. It's
So-
two different worlds.
Thank you. Valentin?
Yeah. So about the retention thing, I think we can just use classical gaming mechanics that are already used for years in commercial games that were not for medical apps. So a very big factor that we made out is definitely competition. It can be even some kind of stupid competition that there is just a number of points, how many you get, and then it shows how much points your friend got.
A high
And-
score list.
Yeah,
the classical high score list
it's
is
a very easy thing to
retention-
do,
Yeah.
and it already motivates people very much.
yes, yes.
And
thank
yeah,
you,
or
thank you for that
collaboration is the
aspect,
same
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
So you are next. So I think we can start with your introduction then.
Good.
So slides, please. Yes, that's it. It's your
Well,
turn.
My name is Valentin Koller. I'm co-founder of Refit Systems. We're a digital health company, and one of our specialties is the gamification, or as I learned, maybe healthification now. I have to see about the brand here. I want to go into one specific product that we have, which is called Refit Gammo. When I have to explain what this is, I mostly start by just saying it's a Wii for rehab, but of course it's much more than that. It's a digital therapy system that integrates motion-controlled video games, and the idea is that the motions that you do correspond exactly with the therapy that you need. We're talking here about physiotherapy, cardiotherapy, occupational therapy, any kind of motion therapy. We integrate in the games biofeedback, so everybody who plays gets instant feedback if they're doing their exercises correctly, and every session, every game is recorded and evaluated afterwards, and all this information plus some analysis are also being sent to my doctor. So I can use this for inpatient, outpatient, and home therapy. To give a quick overview, the platform, the Refit Gammo platform, integrates assessment, games, and analysis for upper extremities, hand therapy, for full body balance, and range of motion therapy, and also cardio. So we use several sensors. All of them are completely non-invasive that track your motion, and then we designed a whole game around the different therapy types that are needed. And so what I was just mentioning, we integrate many of the classical game aspects that try to motivate you for a long time. So there's the competition, there are the high scores, collaboration parts, collectibles is a very big thing that's very common right now also with mobile games. So instead of actually paying with real currency, our currency is the time that you put into your therapy, meaning you get gold coins if you play more, if you do more therapy, and then you can design your own avatar and buy a new shiny hat or whatever it is.
Okay, thank you. Impressing. So you say, and I think that's ambitionated, games will improve patient outcome in therapy in future. And yeah, sure, you can say that, but can you prove it that this will be the case soon?
Well, all the things that you need for a successful therapy are just that you do the right therapy and you do it often enough. So what do you need? The right therapy. For that, you need a specialist. You need a therapist or a doctor who tells you what to do. They know what you need. So it's not really a problem in our society right now. So if you go to a therapist, if you go to a clinic, they really know what you need. It's not a problem that they look at you and say, well, I have no idea what this guy is talking about. What is really the problem, that's our experience, is that usually, for example, in physiotherapy, you have like 6 or 10 physiotherapy sessions in the doctor's office or in the clinic. And in between or after these sessions, you're being told to go home and please continue with these exercises that you just learned at home. And I already see some people nodding here. They know it already. Nobody really does this. Or let's say, many people don't do this regularly. And why is that? well, it's the motivation that is missing.
Actually, the retention for the real doctor's treatment is quite bad. So it's also a kind of retention.
Yeah.
Therefore, I said healthcare is a game that is bad designed.
The healthcare system, the governmental healthcare system is a game that is quite bad designed. Yeah.
Yes, we're coming back to the main thing. It's about the motivation. And
Yes.
if you have the second part about the motivation, then I think gaming is just the way to go. So then you
Okay.
have your retention there.
Got it. Any other opinions of you guys about this topic, or do you agree? You agree? So,
have to.
okay. So, last question. You say soon games will be a normal part in medical treatments and therapy. That means you think it is a dramatic increase in use of games. Is that right? Is that your opinion? That
Yes, I definitely think so. I think that gaming, yeah, it's now, I mean, we have this panel talk here at Medica that already shows that it becomes more important and visible. I think a few years ago, when we came with the idea of putting games into the therapy, it was more like, yeah, you have a nice idea there, but that's not real. That's not real medicine. But the mindset here is switching, and gaming is just, or playing is just a natural way to learn things already as child. So why not use this natural instinct motivation to install it into uncomfortable situations like difficult diagnosis or hard therapy type. So I think it's just the natural way to go, and we can already see that it is increasing tremendously, and I don't think that it will stop here. With new technology that can track a lot of things, it will definitely become more important, so that gaming is just a normal part of medicine in the future.
Strong statement. So I think due to the progress of time, we should change to Thorsten. So your slides are there in this box. Once more. Yep, that's you.
Okay. So my name is Thorsten Feldmann. I'm founder and CEO of Terabytes, a company based in Munich, Germany. We are also, or my background is gaming. I've been gamer since 5 years maybe, since I've been 5 years old. And I have been working for the games industry for nearly 15 years now. And after I quit my former company, I decided to actually do something else with games and build my own company, actually, which is Terabytes now. And the vision is actually turning play into health. And we have, I guess, heard a lot of stories already. We are not too far from what my colleagues are trying to solve, because this is important for me. Our goal is to really solve actual problems that I can see, or we can see, in the healthcare economics. And there's a bunch of projects that we are currently engaged in. Just giving you some examples, with the startup company based in Berlin and Magdeburg, we are helping them to design a playful app that will be used for early detection of dementia. That will also be a medical product in the future. So there's definitely a goal to have something that can be reimbursed by health insurance companies. But we have also other topics that we address, and we see some focus points. One is adherence. We know it may be compliance, adherence. This is also something that is very interesting to solve with the game. We are focusing on diabetes type 1 patients, not adult patients, but let's say teenies, who actually have to learn to treat themselves when they get older, and actually parents are not really taking care anymore if they take their insulin injection, for instance. There's a second area that where we are actively doing something right now. This is Adipositas, where we think a little bit of Pokemon Go maybe. Of course, we are not designing Pokemon Go, but this is definitely a very cool approach I think when Pokemon Go had been launched in 2016, and this tremendous success is, of course, because of this well-known brand, but it also has shown what games can actually change. People who never played started playing, and people who are not really used to walk or to make an extra mile simply started doing that. And there's one project, and this is something that I personally find super exciting, is how can we help science, and in our particular case, how can we help the pharmaceutical industry to better and quicker develop new drugs. Therefore, we start a project next year, which has been funded already, where we will design a science game, and the topic is actually what happens in your lung when you have maybe a bacterial infection that is becoming a true lung infection. And the idea of this science game is that it's all based on a scientific model that simulates what happens in your alveoli. And we actually wrap this whole thing with a game layer, which means players will play an alien invasion game cooperatively, multiplayer, working together. And with each single combat they do and fight and battle against aliens, they actually solve a puzzle, which means they are changing the molecular networks. Of course, they don't know that they do that, but they actually do. And all this data that is being produced will be stored in the back end and will then further be worked with in the science to deliver highly potential drug targets for the pharma industry.
Okay, cool. So, Thorsten, you mentioned funding. And so this is also a significant thing for us developers. And you say our industry needs investors with the guts to invest significant budgets for dev and marketing. So who could be that in your opinion, and what has to change in the whole market?
Okay, we know that from the games industry, so we have funding instruments already in place, and what we did recently is we applied for actually for a medical fund. That was really was fun to me to see when I pitched our solution, to watch the faces of all these people who are physicians, clinicians, researchers, and I had the feeling that maybe I was the alien, actually, having a lot of fun. And what I recognize is they are always and often not used to our approach of thinking, but what I'm also seeing is that more and more companies or institutions from the healthcare economics are slowly recognizing the power of gaming. So there is a lot of pharmaceutical companies now. We recently read that, for instance, Pfizer is actually developing their own games in-house, which is crazy if you ask me, because they are not actually game designers, but this simply shows they are actively doing stuff like that. So when you ask me what needs to be changed, I think it's not too much that can be done right now, but I think the time will play for itself, and we will get more and more recognition by investors who understand what it means to build up a game, not for purely entertainment, but I call it also game or medicine as a service based on a game.
Okay, thank you very much, and I hope the best. So we are over the time. One last question to each of you, and I ask you to answer in only one sentence. If you get maximum funding, what product would you like to develop in eHealth?
Okay, I would then definitely realize this idea about the diabetes adherence game.
We would start to develop an opioids on opioid addiction. Game.
Okay. Okay.
I would continue what I'm doing right now, just in a bigger scale. Very easy.
We're building an apotheek in the Netherlands, so it's contrary to the apotheek. There's an apotheek. I would like to see that global.
Okay, cool. So thank you very much. That was a lot of fun for me at least, and I hope you learned something and you had some outcome. Thank you very much, and thank especially you here at the table. Yeah, thank you.